Hi everyone, my name is Ella Baskerville. I am Business Development Manager at blooloop. So excited to be here today for the Water Park Trend session at V-Expo. I'm joined today by three fantastic panelists, so I'm just going to introduce them quickly to you all. First up, we've got Francine Gonzalez, Executive VP of Business Development at WhiteWater. Francine began her career in operations across several water parks in the US, going on to become the VP of Risk Management and Water Parks for Great Wolf Lodge, where she was responsible for the safety and maintenance at the company's 12 water park resorts in North America. In her role with WhiteWater, Francine helps clients develop safe water parks with the latest innovations. She is an active member of the industry, is currently on the AIMS board of directors and has previously served on multiple committees for IAPA, as well as serving on the IAPA board of directors. She's a former board chair and board member for WWA and recognized in the blooloop 50 theme park influencer list. So hi Francine, thank you for joining. Also joined by Ray Smigel, Chief Commercial Officer at ProSlide. After completing his engineering and business post-secondary education and a minor professional ice hockey career, Ray joined ProSlide in 2007. Over the past 13 years, he has worked closely with Rick Hunter, ProSlide's founder and CEO, on product and market strategy for the company's newest water ride innovations. Ray's passion for water ride design is not only inspired by the vision and commitment to developing world-class water park attractions, but also by his young family consisting of 3 children under the age of 7. That sounds quite a handful, Ray?
Yeah, it's a big time inspiration. So thanks, Ella, for that. Nice to meet everybody, and looking forward to this.
Thank you. And finally, joined by Rob Kelly, Pro Surfer and Communications Officer at American Wave Machines. Rob began surfing at the age of 10 on a family trip to Hawaii. He came back to the shores of Ocean City, New Jersey, and has been surfing ever since. He has spent the last 15 years competing as a professional surfer and riding waves all over the world, from tropical and cold water to man-made waves. Rob has been heavily involved in the recent wave pool craze as an ambassador for American Wave Machines. So hi, Rob. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. No, thanks everyone. We appreciate your time. We'll just explain, we'll do a brief overview of the session. So we're going to start by looking at the pandemic and its effect on the sector. And then we're going to look ahead to tech and trends that are shaping water parks and developments. So kicking it off, talking about COVID-19, it's been a completely unprecedented year for attractions all across all sectors in the attractions industry, particularly as countries are battling to contain the virus. Particularly outdoor seasonal water parks have had to remain closed for their peak season, so have had it pretty hard. Now that we're seems like we're through the edge of it, with the majority of countries opening back up, my first question to the panel is really, how do you think operators' business models will change post-pandemic, but also for manufacturers like yourselves? How's your business models changing?
Yeah, sure. I can give you a little bit of my take on this. I guess this is unprecedented, and it's a really tough time for the industry. I think vendors and operators have always been really closely aligned. Growing up in the US, ProSlide sort of worked with a lot of family businesses, and we're still a family business ourselves. So we understand a lot of the challenges, and it's really time to just batten down the hatches and really get through this. The good news is water park business models are fairly resilient, and you look back the last 30 years, there's been a number of things that have come and affected the industry, whether it's an economic crisis. We've had pandemics before, believe it or not. This one is unprecedented, so we certainly have to take it seriously. But it is good to remember where we came from and where we think we'll get back to. So we really believe that if water parks can make some evolutionary changes, look to technology, look to design principles, operations principles to create safe experiences, we think there's going to be a really strong recovery through this event.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I concur with that. I think that, as we've talked to a lot of customers all over the world, we've got offices worldwide, and we're constantly talking with our customers, our friends, our partners, and how this has affected their business. I think part of that is that resilience that Ray speaks of. Yeah, I remember being an operator, 30 years ago, and you go through these waves of things, whether it was an economic recession, whether it was 9/11, whether it's H1N1. There are these crises that kind of teach you these lessons, and what do you learn from those? But what you also learn is, how does that help your business evolve? There is a bit of a silver lining in this, and that it helps us to be introspective, to think about how does our business change. And what I see is that a lot of the business modeling today has been based around volume. And it's about how many people can you pack in, how many tickets can you sell, what is your attendance, a lot of chest pounding about how many people came to your park. Well, it may have to shift from a quantitative to more of a qualitative experience, where now all of a sudden it's more experiential. It's going to be based on maybe a set number of people coming that can have a really, really great time. Their ancillary spending may have to shift. So now you're providing this higher quality experience. Maybe they're going to spend more money in your park, and maybe that's going to be the right financial model, but it's going to take some time to kind of figure that piece out. I think what we'll also see is probably some more evaluation of health practices. You know, if there's a part of the business that really knows germs, it's the water park business. They're really good at it. We deal with water quality and thousands of people, and they're really good at that part. And we're used to having that health. The public health people coming in and evaluating what we're doing for food and beverage. But I think I'm going to see that expand. And now they're going to be looking at more things at what we're doing. But as it relates to manufacturers, I think what you're going to find is that manufacturers are going to be very much in tune with how that business model changes. And maybe it's not always going to be about the experience based on throughput per hour. It might be about what is the experience and the customer satisfaction that a customer has. So is the client's customer base happy with the ride that they have, or happy with the experience that they've had, rather than just how many people can you put through in an hour? So I can see that changing over time, but at the same time, that resilience, we may come back to the same business model in time, but you may find a little bit of a mix of both.
Yeah, and I believe it's tough because you don't really know exactly how to plan ahead, because the guidelines, everything's where that you guys keep bringing up. I think that's the most important thing to remember, and then just be able to adapt, both operators and manufacturers, using technology, looking for those silver linings, and just kind of taking advantage of that. And again, just being resilient and being able to adapt as things change for however long that's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So as the offering is changing with different business models, bringing those guests back, if the offering changes, how do we convince those guests to come back? How do we change the public perception that they're safe parks again? Is it a marketing thing? Is it, I don't know, a different offering? What are your thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Ray.
Okay. I was going to say, I think that one of the things you have to develop, and I think water parks have done a good job of this in the past, was develop trust, right? Like, trust is paramount right now. There's a lot of media coverage of the different protocols. Like Rob mentioned, you're getting mixed messages. But I think a lot of, I've seen some resiliency out of our parks this summer who have really done a good job of conveying what to expect in the park. They've done a good job of really, following through on that commitment, right? Like, commitments are only as good as the follow through, and trust is only developed from repeat follow throughs. So I think it's going to be, I would say, like, fundamentally for me, it's looking at the trust levels that parks develop with guests. It's adopting some of those practices that Francine referenced, and us just allowing time to elapse. The first day when a park opened this summer in the US was a really nervous day. But by day 5 and day 10 and by day 50, there was a comfort level and a trust developed that allowed them to have a good experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll jump in where I think it was, as COVID was evolving, we were getting a lot of questions from our customers asking about what do they need to do differently in their environment as they got ready to reopen. And so we actually created a reopening guide for them specific to our attractions. We referenced to the other resources that were already there. IAPA put out a guide. The CDC had some guidance. We had a lot of conversations. I don't know how many phone calls I had with the CDC directly to talk about what was going to be practical, pragmatic, and effective for water parks in particular, but trying to put all of those resources together into one document so that people had at least some semblance of guidance to go through, because there's a lot of people that had questions about, am I doing the right thing? And so I would say that many of them found their right path. And although a lot of these guides had practices and recommendations, you still had to kind of figure it out for yourself, for your park, for the way that it was going to work for you. And I think with that, some of the big elements was keeping their guests informed about their practice. And I think it was about being very transparent about what that was, making sure that all those practices were very, very visible. People were visible out there cleaning, and that people were visible checking that those protocols were in place. But what I also found is that, kind of had to stay out of the politics. You had to be saying, okay, this is what the industry is doing. This is what the guidelines are saying. This is what my health officials are saying. And then trying to steer out of the politics and then just do the things that that the general public's expecting of you. And so I think that has helped with water parks. The other piece of it has been that it was a really hot summer in many places. When people opened, clearly there was a demand. They managed the occupancy very, very well. In some cases, they were cash neutral. Some cases, they were cash positive. That's really, really great because people like water parks. They enjoy the leisure space. And so I think there was a perception that it was a safe place to go. And I'm so glad to hear that. And I hope that that's going to continue.
Awesome.
Yeah, and just agreeing with you guys, I think it's important from a marketing perspective just to really make that messaging clear that everything you're doing as far as operations is not only trying to protect your staff from, but as well as your customers. And it's just important to be, like you said, transparent, get that messaging out that everything you're doing is just for the safety of the customers and the staff. And then, as Ray said, follow through with it, because I'm sure you're going to be under the microscope when you open and doing all your operations and stuff. So you just really want to follow through with everything that you're portraying on the marketing side so that there's no question that it's safe to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you made a really good point about employees. I mean, I think you're only as good as your people. And so being able to take care of your people and make sure that they frontline is well protected and that they're also getting a transparent and consistent message from the ownership that you're going to keep them safe. So that's great. That's same for manufacturers, for operators, for anyone in our industry. Our talent is what really defines us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So the guests are coming back. What do you think they're going to be like? Are they going to be germaphobes for the next, decade? Or do you think it's going to change design of the parks themselves and the products that you make? So I know, Ray, I think you wrote for blooloop an article all about how design is going to change. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the good news you can take from how do we deal with this is to remember that design is always changing. Like nothing is stationary, especially in design, and extra especially in the water park industry. Innovation is key. It's not only driving guest experiences and capacity and the sort of the business of a water park, but you look at events like this and you think about how a park is designed. Think about the basics. How do you get people into the park safely? Right now, that's a big deal with schools because schools had entrances for non-pandemic situations. Now you're trying to get kids through the door when there is one. So I think you're going to look at fundamentals around park design a little differently. But at the core, ProSlide's DNA is all about innovation and driving forward. So we've been real drivers of this. Back when water parks, body slides and tubing rides, to the first family raft ride, to the first tornado slide, to the first major limb coasters, and those shifts have helped the water parks evolve from small recreational facilities to regional theme park brands to indoor complexes that were all over the U.S. So we're going to continue to focus on attractions. Beautiful thing about water rides is you end up sharing that experience with a little bubble of your own. You can get in the raft with your friends, your family. You don't have to share necessarily that experience with someone you don't know. So we're going to keep focused on those attractions and continue to sort of adjust and adopt things that are related to the post-COVID world.
Mm-hmm. And Francine, what about you? Because I know your comment earlier about going more experiential. Is it more about kind of less throughput? Do you think that will be how design changes?
Yeah, I think that you're going to see the design change to match kind of the human behavior. And I think it is really about how are people going to behave post-COVID. And what I'm seeing is that the family unit experience is going to be part of that. It's going to be that the family unit will come together. You'll see the pods of seating that might change. The entries may be a little bit more VIP entry, that you can stagger people and stage people in different ways. But so that you're almost creating that kind of built-in social distancing. At the same time, there's an energy from a park that comes from the number of people that are there. Mm-hmm. And there's also an energy in the park that comes from what you visually see. So I see that sometimes parks can be really all about the ride, but you really have to make it all about what you see. So I do think that you're going to see that more experience, the more heavily themed, maybe much more focus on kind of how it looks and how it looks especially when you're doing, your selfie. So I think that is going to change into that more experiential piece of it. The other piece, I think there's going to be some more technology. I mean, think about how much business we are conducting today through Zoom or other formats and other platforms. The same thing is going to happen in parks, where traditionally they have maybe not always embraced some technology, contactless transactions, contactless doors, entryways. You're going to see more about big data and data gathering so that you understand how people move through a park. And I think that you're going to see that people are going to be maybe more, I hope that we see a little bit more flattening of the occupancy. I remember the days working in Great Wolves, and you're sold out on a weekend, but it might be really slow midweek. If all of a sudden you've got a much more flat occupancy throughout the week, it really changes how you operate, and it allows you to provide that kind of experience people are wanting. So I do think that post-pandemic, it's, maybe short term, we're going to see more regional park attendance. And then longer term, as people feel more comfortable going back to destination parks, that we'll see that return. But I do think that we're going to see more technology, more experience, more visual.
So then, kind of not talking about COVID, because I'm sure we've all said that word many times in the last month. Looking kind of ahead, like we've all said, the industry is constantly evolving. There's always new technology. And really, your three companies are leaders in that field. What do you see as the next big thing in water parks? We just touched on it slightly, but is it connected parks? Is it theming? What's the kind of big trends that you're all seeing in your clients that are asking you for developments?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one. Because we see the world, we see variations of it. We do see a wide ranges of how people are changing their outlook for water parks and the next big thing. It is sometimes regional, depending on what's happening within that culture. But I would say by and large, I think big data is going to be a part of our world. And I think it already is in the retail business, but I think being able to use big data in order to understand customer behaviors, I think is going to drive how people design their parks differently. It's going to also drive how they approach their business. It may also be helping them to be more nimble in making changes. I remember being an operator and I had 95 days to make all my money for the whole year. And so you have to be perfect at the beginning of the year and operate all year long. So if you are seeing something and you know you need to make a change, you have to make that change fast. And so some of the best parks are those that are the most nimble, but some of those have to tap into data. And so if you don't have access to the data, you can't be nimble. So I do think that big data is going to be part of driving that experience, or driving profitability and operating efficiency. I think we're also going to see personalization, more personalization throughout that experience. People want to say, this was curated for me. And I think that going into the future is very exciting, because the sky's the limit. It's kind of like a black box. It can be anything. And so every person is different. And that, as for people that innovate, that's an awesome place to be, because now you get to innovate in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, Francine, because water parks have gone through this really rapid evolution the last 35, 40 years. Like, it was very rudimentary. Now we're living in a day and age where water parks are really, vying for, the top spot alongside the world's best theme parks. This year, we were able to work closely with the Mock family on Europa Parks Atlantica, and to see a world-class theme park develop an absolutely world-class water park is really cool. And we see the post-COVID world building on the momentum of the pre-COVID world when it comes to ride design and attractions. Our philosophy is we look at a 5-year product roadmap where we sort of adopt principles like companies like Tesla, where we're developing technologies, the powertrains of the next great coasters. Coasters like the photo behind me here is a really exciting attraction that opened up this year at Holiday World during a pandemic. They did a fantastic job getting this together and open. And it's rides like this that I think are going to really be those drivers to help not only the big brands, but also smaller regional parks create that differentiation and create that marketability that's going to be really important. People go to water parks for that fundamental water-based family with your friends experience, but they also want like real entertainment value. They want real enjoyment. So look to coasters, look to the racing experience. And as I'm sure as this expo will unveil, and in the fall and winter, there's a lot more really exciting technology coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'll just elaborate on that as far as like the technology goes. I think that's going to be what you're going to see really have big improvements, and these new technologies that are going to be successful are going to be the ones that align with the new normal, if you were to say. And that's where surf parks kind of have already shown to have a lot of value. As Francine said, the volume might not be as important as the value with that experience. So when you can charge a premium for someone to, say, surf a wave pool, instead of just filling a attraction or a pool with as many people as you can charge that individual a premium to surf the wave pool and utilize that. I think that's going to be a similar trend as far as the next big thing with wave pools is just technologies that are going to align with the safe social distancing practices, if that does become the new normal. Water parks are going to look for attractions like that, again, where you can have higher value with less volume.
I was going to ask you, Rob, about surf parks because they're just kind of exploded in popularity over the last few years. And I believe it's because of the Olympics. Is that right? They're now an official sport in the Olympics. So I was going to ask you kind of what's so appealing to guests at surf parks and also to the operators as well.
Yeah, this year is actually, like we're talking about silver linings. As far as surfing goes and the popularity, this year has been a huge silver lining. For starts, it's a sport that you can do individually. So it's been really appealing for people to learn to surf this summer. A lot of the sports camps, football, basketball, soccer, they weren't able to run this summer. So you saw a lot of parents taking their kids to learn how to surf. And you know anything about surfing, they say it's like the mob. Once you get in it, you can't get out. When you catch that first wave, you really get a bug and you kind of stay a surfer for life. So the popularity of surfing has like increased tenfold. Board sales, wetsuit sales are like at an unprecedented amount because of COVID and because it's a sport that you can do individually. That's also helped drive the demand at the wave parks that were open. We have a park in Waco, Texas, that the bookings have been through the roof because, again, it's one of the only experiences that you could actually do because when you're surfing, you're by yourself or you're with small private groups. So as far as appealing, it fits the mold of what's kind of going on right now, and we've seen the numbers grow. And with this huge spike in popularity, I feel like that's just only going to grow the market so much. And then we'll add the Olympics to that next year, the first time surfing's ever been showcased on a platform in that scale. It's going to be pretty crazy, the amount of popularity that's surfing.
So all surfing will be done on man-made machines, is that right? Because it's kind of fair for a competition.
So right now it's scheduled in the ocean still. The Olympics obviously were supposed to be this summer, but we have a project going on in Japan, in Tokyo, that they're building a wave pool. The right now, the Olympics are still scheduled to be in the ocean, but I see in the future, absolutely, if the surfing continues to be in the Olympics, it's going to have to be in a pool. It's a fair venue. You're guaranteed perfect waves every time. So if there's a success with the Olympics in the ocean, going in the future, it's going to definitely be taking place in a wave pool.
Oh,
I'll share a funny story. You know, I grew up in the desert, so I always wanted to be like, I always wanted to surf. I thought it was just the coolest thing from a lifestyle, but I lived in the desert. So that's one of the reasons why I became what we would call a water park rat. I hung out at the water park the entire time. And back then, you know, you could do all sorts of crazy stuff on water slides that you probably wouldn't allow to do today, but that was our version of surfing. And so it is kind of ironic. You know, I now work for WhiteWater 30 some odd years later, and WhiteWater just launched its Endless Surf surf pool, and it has been really amazing to see how the evolution of technology has taken place, and really how it's an opportunity for people who never could surf before, never lived by the beach, could have that same experience. And you know, I think that as a lifestyle and as a skill and as a sport, you know, we're seeing that, one, it's attractive to people because it's athletic and it's social. I mean, there's a lifestyle around that, and there's a whole social network that comes with that. And that experience really kind of keeps driving people to want to be a part of it. It's getting a lot of attention because it's also kind of the link to leisure. You know, you can sit on the beach if you're not a surfer, but you can be with your family. And you can try to surf, or maybe you're going to wade into this wave pool, but it's hugely visual. People get to look at what you're doing, and they are constantly amazed. With our Flow Rider product, people will sit there and be mesmerized by people just riding on the Flow Rider. And so I think there's a lot of legs to surf parks and to surf pools, and I'm super excited about it.
Absolutely. Can't you make a fortune by putting like a restaurant just watching it and selling more food and beverage?
Yeah, we do that with our Flow House, and that's exactly right. Now it's just taking that and making it bigger.
Yeah, awesome. So I guess, so surf parks is one trend, but and really we want to talk about, we mentioned it before about Atlantica coming to Europa Park. You know, a second gate for a theme park is really attractive, but also kind of changing the experience like Coco Cay was for Royal Caribbean. Where do you guys see kind of water parks, surf parks springing up in different sectors, different markets that, you know, traditionally didn't have water parks before?
It's a good point. You know, water parks, you look at the number of new water parks being developed, it's an eye opener to see them across the segments: outdoor, indoor, water theme park, resort developments, now destination islands, and, you know, now part of other retailtainment type facilities. So I think water parks have proven themselves to be a really valuable asset and amenity to any facility. You know, the hotel, Francine described earlier her experience with Great Wolf Lodge, and they're an incredible brand in the United States and really inspired other brands around the world. Lalandia, Center Parks do their own thing. In China, there's a number of groups. So you're seeing like water parks are now validated as a good amenity. And I'd almost challenge the idea of a second gate, because I think, you know, West Water Park people, we certainly, you know, we really believe in it. And in a hot summer day, the water park is by far the first gate in a lot of regional facilities. They all rush into the water park. And so the water parks do need to have, you know, the attractions and the capacity management and all of those things so that they can serve these theme park type guests.
Mm-hmm.
But the coolest, I think one of the coolest things that we're going to see here shortly in New Jersey is the American Dream. And I think I grew up in near Edmonton, Alberta, and when I was in the 80s and 90s, I was crawling all over the West Edmonton Mall Water Park. And it was my second home. I know every square inch of that park. I knew every ride that was in and removed and replaced, and sort of lived a bit of the evolution of water parks, water rides back then. And to see the Gramesian family make this amazing investment, really pioneering again the next great retailtainment type facility. I believe in their success. I think they're going to do great things in New Jersey. I also believe that model could inspire a bit of a return of malls with really strong, you know, whether it is theme parks, water parks, FECs, but I think you might see people come back to these high volume indoor recreation facilities with shopping.
Absolutely. Well, something needs to bring people back when it's so easy to go on Amazon throughout this lockdown.
True.
I think they'll be leaning on entertainment even more than ever before.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, kind of piggybacking on that concept is that you're seeing also kind of a bit of a shift in certain areas based on weather and climate, a shift to outdoor malls. And so where you traditionally to this big air-conditioned indoor mall, you now have more of these outdoor kind of lifestyle malls, maybe a little bit different in the mix of retail. But what's missing sometimes is that leisure space where mom can and where dad can be with their kids, and having some of those outdoor elements include water park types of activities is really a great way. Any place that you can add the entertainment value to the retail and dining and make sure that the family unit can still be together, I think that's where we're going to see more and more of this. But also too, you know, you see more development of eco parks. So I see that water park elements are still part of that. I mean, some of the first water park inspirations are things like Slide Rock. And Slide Rock was really kind of the offshoot of a creek that had this big flat slide that people slid down. And so that was a natural environment that was part of the inspiration for today's water slide. So I think we're going to see more of that return to kind of the natural setting, and how do you incorporate some of those water park elements and that entertainment value, but still in a very you know, beautiful setting. We did a water park called Gonzales in the Cancun area with the Grupo Vidanta, and they really wanted to have this very natural looking setting, almost like an eco park, and at the same time a luxury resort. So I think we're going to see more of that blending of those experiences, and not just your traditional water park that you've seen in the past.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I wanted to kind of finally ask you all a bit about projects you're working on. So if you have anything exciting that you've got coming up, kind of regionally, but around the world as well, I'd love to hear kind of what you're working on at the moment.
Sure, yeah, I'll go first. Well, certainly this year has been a crazy year. Like in 2020, we were scheduled to open about 30 to 35 new projects, and about 20 were deferred, or the opening dates were deferred into 2021. So I think 2021, we're going to see a lot of really exciting parks open that either were delayed or scheduled to open in 21. We're really excited about American Dream, obviously. We're excited about working out with the Kalahari Group again and doing what will be America's largest indoor water park in Round Rock. Really excited if you scoot over to Dubai. There's a really exciting expansion going on at Atlantis Dubai. It's going to become the world's largest water park when it opens. Features all of our great new rides. It's really going to be a focal point for the world. You know, Denmark, Sweden, most of Southern Europe, a lot of cool projects. But look for China. Like, China is going to be a real, really a real leader. Like, a lot of the real estate backed groups in China are getting experience and starting to become leaders of their own. So look to groups like OCT. We're doing, you know, next May it'll open probably the most modern water park, you know, in Asia. So excited about that. And there's a little job on the Ocean Flower Island. Evergrande is opening up a very large project. I know a lot of companies are supporting that. The Evergrande Group is incredible, and they're certainly going to be opening an exciting project this year.
Amazing.
Thank you.
So I'll talk about some projects that we have going on.
Mm-hmm.
The next in line, we have a big project, as I mentioned, in Japan, in Tokyo, and that's scheduled to have breaking waves as early as November of this year. So we're really excited about that project, especially having the Olympics coming to Tokyo, whether it's in the ocean or not. The fact that we're going to have a pool for athletes to come practice, entertainment, spectators for the Olympics, whatever it is, having that pool, the big focal point in Tokyo, is going to be awesome. And in addition to that, we have a big project going on in Brazil, the Boa Vista Surf Park. That's going to be twice the size of any of the existing wave pools we have now. So we're really excited about that. There's a huge surf scene down in Brazil. World Champions is from Brazil. So we're really excited for that big scale pool. And then we also have the American Dream, which I actually was fortunate enough to test ride before it closed down. And that's super fun. It's an indoor, smaller scale, perfect swell that offers like an incredible, a perfect wave for beginners, intermediate, and then like pros myself. So that's scheduled to open back up October 8th. So we're really excited to get that going back up and be able to surf that and have customers enjoy that technology as well. And then one other project we have in the pipeline is in Florida that we're really excited about. So looking forward to that.
Great. Lots going on.
For sure. It's, we are a global company. We've got offices worldwide, and we probably do about 150 or more projects a year. So I won't go through all of them, but what I will say is that we're very excited about a couple of things. One is, we launched our Vantage program in Island H2O in Kissimmee a couple of years ago, and that was really a new technology that basically creates system so that people can capture information about their customers in a way where they can utilize it, both to help the customer have a better experience within the park, but also to collect enough information so that you can make operational changes and improve your operational efficiency. So that technology is a wristband-based one. We used it, it was a technology we developed for slideboarding, which was originally a video game in a water slide, but using that same technology, we're able to kind of gamify a whole park. So we're excited to see a couple of projects that will be introducing that technology in the next year or so. Endless Surf, as I said, we launched that just recently. So Endless Surf, we have 3 different types of surf pools in various sizes. But what's exciting is that it's it allows for different experiences. So if you're a world-class surfer, or if you're a little bit more of a tame surfer, or if you're just beginning, you can do all of that in that same surf pool. So excited about the launch of Endless Surf, and we encourage everybody to take a look at that. But as always, we have some very, very loyal customers that look to us to help them develop that next wonderful project, the one that really caters to their customer and that caters to the culture of the area, to be authentic to their brand, and to make sure that there's always a safe ride and a safe park. And so excited to work with all of those. I can't wait you'll get to see all of those, I'm sure, in all the industry publications, but I have to say that we are so excited to see a lot of our customers still pushing forward on their plans to develop their parks. There's some people that said, I'm going to wait, I'm going to stop. And then there's others that said, no, I want to keep moving forward, because when we get past this, I need to be able to recover my business faster, and that was going to allow them to do so. So excited for all of them, and can't wait to have all those projects that kind of what got on hold. They were completed from a construction standpoint, but really just didn't get launched. So can't wait to see those open this next summer.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you've all got busy few months ahead on all sorts of projects. No, I think that's pretty much all we've got time for today, but I've had such a great time listening to your thoughts on trends and insights into what you're all doing all around the world. Really appreciate your time, and thank you for joining us at the Expo. And if anyone has any questions, I know you all have presence at the show and various booths and lounges and things, so I'm sure everyone can come and ask you for any follow-up questions.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, Ella.
Thanks, everyone.